Hello, welcome back to my channel, Thrifty Day. My name is Leah. I'm the creator behind Thrifty Day. Today's episode is going to be just a little bit of an informative sort of video. I have a lot of people ask me where I get my supplies and where I purchase different things that I use. And one of the main things that I use in journaling or this, for creative journaling, the type of journals that I make are vintage books. So I'm very lucky that I actually get to go to a lot of estate sales and yard sales. It's actually part of my job. It's something that I really take very seriously because when I create my journals, I like to use as many authentic vintage products as I can. It's just something I really love. It's something I'm passionate about. So many of my books come from estate sales and yard sales and thrift stores. The best place I would say are estate sales. But if you're looking for just specifically books, a really interesting and cool tip is to look for those Friends of the Library sales. Many cities also have Friends of the Library bookstores. And what they are, they're like used bookstores. And it's the books, let me sort of show you. It's the books that the library really no longer wants. And so they kind of have their own little bookstore that they filter these books out to so that people can buy them for extremely discounted rates. My Friends of the Library store, all of the children's books, even this one, are just 50 cents. So you can see there is damage and things like that. You can see where all the library information is still on the spine. Many times they'll still have the library cards. This one no longer does because actually most libraries are all scanned now, so that's just blacked out. But they had this book long enough that there was still the library pocket at one point. So look for those Friends of the Library bookstores rather. You'll find some really neat deals there for very inexpensive, and you can find some really fun books. So now what do I look for when I'm actually looking for used books? Many things. Sometimes it's as simple as looking for a vintage book to use to create for journaling. This would be an amazing journal. It's in great shape overall. The pages are all here and intact. And it's actually a really neat type of journal because as you can see, it's very old. So it's actually sewn in. So it would be very easy to cleanly remove these pages. And it's obviously very, very vintage. It was 25 cents originally. And I love these Rand McNally books. To me, they're very nostalgic and just very whimsical. So Rand McNally is an author I often look for, those little elf books. So that's a really easy, sure thing. Of course, I'm going to buy the little vintage books. Like here's another little vintage golden book. It's in lovely condition. It's vintage. This one's probably, okay, this one is from the 70s. I was thinking 80s, but it says the 70s. The pages and illustrations are lovely. How cute is the clown? You know, I love clowns. So this is certainly a type of book I would look for, not only to use the pages, but to actually use, sorry if you could hear my dog shaking, but you could use to create a full journal. So those are easy. Now, some of these other books I look for other specific reasons. This is a paperback book, and I wouldn't necessarily use the paperback book part because it is a very thin paper cover for journaling, although I wouldn't rule it out. It's very possible that you would want to. What I am purchasing this one for is the illustrations to use in my journal. These would be really neat journal pages. They're very vintage, very interesting, very fun. And I just think they would be lovely to gather in. I don't actually, let's see if we could find a date on here. I don't actually see a date. There's even really cute advertising in these sort of magazines. 1965. It says July 1965. So this is a sort of book or pamphlet or magazine that I would use to create pages. How cute is that? You cut that out and send it in to get a special perky project back in the mail. That's so cute. So that's what I would purchase this for. And this one's actually in excellent shape. These larger books, These larger books I purchased to use in my larger junk journals as pages. Oops, hold on, something's about to fall. Like, this is my personal journal. Let me take the charm off. And in here I have pages of all varieties. I did a whole flip through of this journal before I even started in it, so if you wanted to see to get a better idea. But see, there's some of those whimsical sort of pages. This is a whole book page. And so what this was a larger book, just like this, and I use it and I fold those pages over. You could also use these pages if you wanted to keep them intact because you like the images. You can cut them out, put them back together with tape or washi tape, and then sew them in the correct way. So they would be like a normal book. They wouldn't be sideways. But I personally don't mind because in many cases I'm going to cover them up anyway. Like, see, I put a scrap piece of fabric there. And so that's why I buy a lot of these larger books for the journals I create. And when I'm looking for these books, what I'm doing is I am actually looking for illustrations that are interesting. This book is from the 80s, and I really just sort of love the images. I also really love anything fairy tales and classic sort of literature. That always catches my eye as well. So I just really sort of like the content of this one. Even though it was a little bit newer from the 80s, it still was quite beautiful, and I really love the images. Another thing that's very important to me when I'm looking for vintage books especially is I usually try to keep the books I pull to use for my journals as anything from the 80s and older. So typically, of course, I want 50s, 60s, or 70s, but like this is from the 80s, and I really love it, and it's in really great condition. So that's another thing I sort of really try to look for is I'll open up the book, see when it's from. Like I said, this one's from the 80s, and I just really want to make sure that the pieces that I'm picking are authentic vintage. Because that's very important to me when I am creating a custom journal or a journal for my patrons over on Patreon. I want to know that I'm using true vintage products. So that's what I look for in these bigger books. And like I said, these were all 50 cents each at the Friends of the Library bookstore. This one I absolutely love. It was Cinderella. Let's see, I don't remember when this one was. This is also from the 1980s, 1988. I would have guessed 70s, so that's interesting, the 80s. But I loved these illustrations, and these will be perfect for a princess journal, a fairy tale journal, or even just any sort of classic sort of journal. I also am considering doing a series where I show how to make large journals. I don't usually make large journals, although I have done one for myself in the past. You can look at old YouTubes. I have a very large, it's about this big actually, Disney cover junk journal. It was one of my personal journals from probably 2 years ago now. And it was really fun to create in, but it was very large and sometimes very difficult to create in. There's also a full flip through of it. I'll try to link all of that in the description here in case you're interested. But let me know if you'd be interested in a DIY YouTube showing how I create a journal that size, because it is a little bit different and it is a little more difficult because working with a book this big is quite hard. It's not as easy as using, like, say, a little golden book. So that I picked up Cinderella. This one I was so excited about. I love the cover. I love the content, and I believe it's from the 70s. So I scooped this one up really quickly. Oh, and I didn't even realize, of course, I love it. It's Rand McNally. I told you. I just finished saying I love Rand McNally. Yes, this is from 1973. And I mean, even this page alone, like, are you kidding me? How sweet is that? There's some damage to it, and there's like some spotting and stuff, but that's okay because I really got it for the pages. I mean, this content alone is incredible. The colors, it just screams 70s. And you all know I love a good 70s vibe. I just did that whole 70s collection, and I think you all loved it as much as I did. It was so much fun to create. And it's incredible. It's beautiful. So I scooped this one up right away. And again, it was very inexpensive. I don't know if they considered this a children's book, because sometimes they do individual pricing, but I think they did. because usually if there's an individual price, it's written in very light pencil up in the corner, and there's nothing here. My husband also got a couple books for Barley's Bookshop, his little online bookshop. And for all the books you see here and the few that he got, they only charged us $9. And there was a lot of books. So as you can see, this cover's a little bit sticky on the back too. I don't know what's back there, but I just instantly fell in love with this book. So I picked this one up right quick. I love the size. I think it'll be perfect to use in journals. I love the cover, and it's huge. I can't imagine making a scrapbook out of it, but maybe. I love it so much. And it's really, really like, this is hardcore. So picked that one up. The other one I pick up just because I think I do it out of habit. My oldest daughter, Lizzie, was a huge Wizard of Oz and Wicked fan growing up. So I always, even now, all these years later, she's 24, I buy vintage Wizard of Oz books and anything about Oz, because she had so many. I don't know. I think it's just nostalgic for me. This one was quite a bit damaged, but the reason I buy beautiful old paperbacks like this is because you can actually set them to board. You could even just use like cereal boxes. I would use chipboard. You could use the back of the paper pad you get like at Michael's and Joann's. That back page is usually pretty weighty. You could even just put this on that, and you could even create a journal out of them. But look at those illustrations. How sweet. I cannot. This is just so precious. So I had to have it. And even with damage like this, you can fix that when you mount it to the board. It's not going to look perfect, but if you're somebody like me, I think it's just neat to be able to rescue these books. And this one, even though it's kind of brittle and has some cover damage, is in pretty good shape. It's from 1979. So I think that was a really fun purchase. And I think that would be really neat to put onto board and create a journal. And if you are listening and you've come this far with me, I am planning a whole Wizard of Oz month for Patreon very soon, and I'm so excited. So I don't know if there's any Oz lovers out there, but it will all be vintage Wizard of Oz. I've been hoarding Wizard of Oz books that I find at thrift stores and things like that, and yard sales and vintage bookstores. And so we're going to have a really fun month coming up, but I still need to collect a little bit more. So I need more time to continue to curate that month, but it'll all be vintage Wizard of Oz, and I'm very excited. So let me know if you're excited about that in the comments, because I'm so excited. And then the last thing I purchased was this book. It's called In Other Words. It's like a textbook. It's called The Beginner, the Thesaurus. I don't know how old it is. Oh, it's 1968. See, this one they said was $2, although I swear I didn't pay that much for all these. But if there's an additional price, if it's not considered just children's book, there's a little price up in the corner. And this one was $2, but it's from 1968. And again, this is a very specific book I purchased to use as junk journal pages. I think it's really sweet. Had some really fun, pretty illustrations. And I saw a lot of dogs. And you know, when I see a lot of dogs, I just can't resist. Oh, dogs. And look at even the picture of the children. How cute is that? So this will be something that I very much use in the journals I make for Patreon, the journals I make to make for customs or put in my Etsy shop. And I also get asked, well, what do you do with the covers of these books that you don't, that once all the pages are gone? I save them. I have a whole stack of them. And then when I do live events, these are often the covers I will pull from to make blank page journals out of. So I'll just put white paper in them. And then I have like these big stands. I'll have to show you. They're like these big white wire racks. And they just have blank journals, and they all have white pages, and they're from all the books that I just had covers left over from the pages that I use. So truly nothing goes to waste. I'm a very use it all up sort of gal. And so anyway, I hope this was informative for you. And if you'd like to see that big, large size journal tutorial here on YouTube, please let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to do that. I have some really beautiful larger size books that the pages are almost gone, so I might as well start making them into creative style journals. If not, I'll save them to make blank page journals for live events that I do. Yeah, so this particular book I will use, I bought just for the cover. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. Anyway, this is a beautiful one, and sometimes I'll buy the books just for the covers. I think I might have missed that. And this is one that I purchased just for the cover. And of course, I will use all of these beautiful pages. And if you are a part of my Patreon for the month of June, you already know that our theme this month is vintage library. And all of the journals are going to be very vintage books. I'll do a whole Patreon, YouTube here letting you all know and showing you. But all of the journals that I'm making for the journal tiers are made out of very vintage books, and they're going to be quite beautiful and very nostalgic, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, but yeah, books like this I buy for the cover. Anyway, I hope this was informative. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions or you want to see specific tutorials, just let me know. And if you're interested in being a part of my Patreon for the month of June, like I said, it's Vintage Library. Check out the description box because we'd love to have you there. So hit the like button. That would mean a lot to me in helping to grow my YouTube. Subscribe to my channel. That would also mean a lot. And I hope you all have a really great day. If you have any questions, leave them below. Bye now.